A very warm welcome to everyone joining us today for the third and final webinar of day 2 of the South Asia Teaching English Online Conference. I'm Udani and I'm a freelance consultant with the British Council and I'll be your host for the day. I can already see that people have started saying hi, teachers and teacher educators have started saying hi on the chat. And please keep that coming and let us know where you're joining from and if you're a teacher or a teacher educator. Today, the theme is all about using 21st century skills, and we are closing with a powerful and people-focused session. It's called The Heart of the Classroom, Developing Our People Skills in ELT with Teresa Bestwick. This session is being recorded and is also live streamed on the British Council Teaching English Asia Facebook page. So do share the link if any of your colleagues couldn't join on the Zoom webinar. So before we begin, I would like to give a few housekeeping notes to everyone. Please use the chat for your comments and the Q&A box to ask any questions from our speakers. We will have a small time towards the end, 10 minutes, to answer any of your questions. And you'll receive an editable PDF certificate, and the link will be shared at the end in the chat and also on the Facebook comments section. Finally, we ask everyone to be respectful in the chat. Please keep your comments focused on the session and avoid sharing personal opinions, political views, or links to other products. Thank you. And I'm so excited to get started. All right. Before I pass things, I'm very happy to introduce our speaker for today, Teresa Bestwick. Hi, Teresa. How are you and where are you joining from?
I'm joining from Spain. It's wonderful to see so many countries
Right,
popping up in the chat.
right. And it must be sunny over there, I suppose.
Sunny and hot, yeah.
Hot, all right, summertime. All right, so before I hand the session over to you, I would like to introduce you a little bit. You are a teacher trainer and a writer who has worked with many teachers around the world. And today's session, like I said, it's called The Heart of Classroom, where you will talk about skills learners need for life and not just for exams. And you will also show us easy and fun activities to help learners build people skills like empathy, listening, time management, and creative thinking. And all while using English. So perfect in ELT, right? So without further ado, over to you, Teresa. And I'll be in the background if you need me for anything.
Thank you very much for the warm welcome, Udani. Okay, so hello everybody. Thank you for joining us today. First of all, a huge thank you to the South Asia Teaching English team for inviting me to come along. Hello to anyone who's watching on Facebook. Lovely to have you joining us there. And also if you're watching this on catch up on YouTube later, a warm hello as well. So let's get started. So, as Udani said, we're going to be looking at developing people skills in the English language classroom. And I've called it the heart of the classroom because, the people, whether it's the students, the teachers, the families, they really are at the heart of our classrooms. So, what are we going to do today? Well, first of all, we're going to take a quick look at what we mean by people skills. Then we'll think a little bit. Udani's already mentioned some. We'll think about some people skills that we can use in the classroom. We're going to try some practical activities, so I hope everybody's ready to get typing. And at the end, there'll be a little bit of time to reflect on which activities will work best for you and for your students. Okay. So, what do we mean by people skills? So, people skills, we're thinking sometimes they're called soft skills. And they're the types of skills that help us work well with others, get to know a little bit more about ourselves as well. So, what people skills can you think of? Right, so Sirisha, she said empathy, communication, team building, creativity, patience. We've got some fantastic ideas coming in, collaboration, peer working, leadership, excellent negotiation, interpersonal skills, time management, emotional intelligence. They've got so many great ideas coming in. And my apologies, I don't have time to read everyone's names because the chat's just blowing up. It's fantastic. Connection, participating, fantastic. Lots of intrapersonal skills. Exactly. Okay, so these are the skills that we're going to be looking at in the session today. Obviously, you're all naming a lot more, like polite communication, empathy, active listening. We've got that one there as well. Within a 40-minute session, it's impossible to cover everything, but these are the ones that we're going to look at in the session today through some practical activities. So as Udani mentioned, I love doing things which you can take away and use in the classroom immediately. So, without further ado, let's get started with the first one. And unfortunately, I need to start with a quick confession. Okay, so yesterday I didn't do everything that I should have done. I had quite a lot of things on my to-do list, and one of the things that I didn't do was marking a student's piece of writing. Okay, so how do you think that made me feel that I didn't mark my student's writing? I mean, maybe I felt relieved. Oh, yep, we've got guilty, regret, sadness, stressed. Exactly. I was feeling all of those things. And who was affected by me not marking my students' writing? I was affected, the students were affected. Yep, exactly. And how do you think my students might feel that I didn't mark their writing? Maybe they feel sad, disappointed, maybe they feel relieved. Yep, you never know if they hadn't put a lot of effort in. Maybe they're happy that I didn't get around to marking it. Yeah, maybe they feel that I didn't value the work that they'd done. Maybe they feel neglected. These are all fantastic ideas coming through. And what are the consequences of me not marking that piece of writing? So what are the consequences? Maybe they feel demotivated. Yep, definitely. Could be a waste of time, a loss of trust. Yep, I'd given them a deadline to do the writing, and maybe I'd even said to them, I'll get them marked on this date. Timely feedback is really important. Yep, definitely. Exactly. Maybe they don't want to put in so much effort the next time. These are all fantastic ideas coming through. Okay, so this is an activity that you can do with your students. And I call the activity Yesterday I Didn't. And I would always start it with something that you didn't do. All of these activities that we're going to see today, it's really useful for you to model the activity first. Partly because it gives the students an idea of how they should complete the activity, but also, when we're talking about people skills, we're talking about sharing more about ourselves as well. We want students to feel comfortable talking about themselves. So it's important that we model that behavior as well. So, first of all, tell the students something that you didn't do. And then these are the 4 questions to guide them to think about developing a little bit of empathy for the people involved. So first of all, how did I feel? Okay, so already they're putting themselves in your shoes and thinking about how you might feel about something you didn't do. Who was affected by this non-action. So before we said, obviously, the students were affected. How might they feel? So again, we're looking at empathy, thinking about the feelings of other people. And finally, what are the consequences of the non-action? Now, this last question is really important because sometimes when our students, and thinking particularly here about teenagers, sometimes they're asked to do things that they don't want to do, whether it's homework, cleaning their room, looking after a younger brother or sister, etc. And so asking them to think about the effects of not doing what they're asked to do can be really useful as well for helping them to understand why they're being asked to do things. Okay, for example, imagine that you've given the students a project and they need to work in groups. If one person doesn't do their part of the project, the consequences could be that perhaps nobody else can move forward in the project. Okay, so it gets them to think a little bit about empathy and take responsibility for their actions as well. Fantastic. So hopefully you enjoyed that first activity. That was, I feel like a weight's been lifted off my shoulder. And thank you for being kind and showing empathy because we're all teachers and we all have busy lives as well. So, that stressed me out a little bit yesterday, not getting all my work done. I'd like to hear from you now. What sort of things stress you out? And what helps you manage your stress? So, for example, workload is a good one, writing lesson notes, deadlines. Yep, I think they stress everybody out. Very good. Listening to songs helps you de-stress, helps you manage your stress. Fantastic. Excellent. Keep those ideas coming through, preparing materials. Quite a few people are talking about listening to music as a way to manage stress. That's wonderful. Going for a walk, I saw in there cooking. I wonder whether cooking is something that stresses you out or helps you to manage your stress. Meditation, playing, reading books, excellent. Lots of fantastic ideas, as well as quite a few stresses there. Lesson planning, achieving my goals, deadlines, oof, lots of things. And I mean, we suffer from stress every day, so do our students as well. So this next activity is an activity to help them manage their stress. And for this, you will need some scrap paper. If you've got some blue scrap paper, fantastic. If not, a blue pencil will work so that students can colour in. So the first thing that you get your students to do, and again, model the activity for them, is they cut out drops of different sizes. And on those drops, they write the things that stress them out. So, for example, this one is my to-do list. This one, as we've already mentioned, marking learners' writing. And this one is some planning, some teacher training planning that I have to do. Okay, so when you've got the students to write all of their drops on and colour them in to make them blue, hopefully you'll be able to see this. Oh, no, not at all. Then you get a bucket. If you've got a real bucket in the classroom, perfect. If not, you can do what I did and draw a bucket on a piece of paper. Now, unfortunately, because of the blurred background, you're not going to be able to see my bucket very well, but there is a bucket. And then the idea is that first of all, they drop their stresses into the bucket. Okay, so in go all of my stresses. And then these things that help you to de-stress. These go onto holes. So here are my holes. For example, one of my holes is going for a walk. Okay, so going for a walk helps me to de-stress. Gardening as well helps me to de-stress. And watching TV. I will admit I'm a fan of police thrillers. I'm currently watching The Rookie. I love it, and that helps me to relax. So then they've got this bucket, which is filled with all of the things that stress them out. And then on the outside of the bucket, they stick their de-stresses. Okay? The idea being, the idea being that these things make holes in the bucket and helps to release some of that stress. Okay? So let's have a look at the stages of that again. First of all, get your students to write their stresses on droplets of water. And it can be really helpful as well for them to consider the size of the droplet. Okay, if it's something that doesn't stress them out very much, a small droplet. But if it's something that causes them a lot of stress, they can make that droplet bigger. Okay, so they're becoming more self-aware. They're thinking about themselves and what stresses them out and how much things stress them out. Then fill the bucket with the droplets of water. And more importantly, write the things that manage your stress onto whole shaped pieces and stick them on the outside. And then use this as something in the classroom on display. Okay, so if you feel that the students are perhaps feeling a little stressed, or just one individual comes into class and you can tell that they're stressed, say to them, go and have a look at the bucket. Which of those activities will help you to de-stress? Okay, so all of these water droplets, they're all kind of hidden at the bottom of the bucket, but clearly visual on display to the students are all these different ways that they can de-stress. Okay. And this is a lot of the activities that I'm doing today, they're aimed at teenagers, but something very physical like this is particularly fun for younger learners as well. And it doesn't, younger learners also experience stress. Maybe they have to read a book for school. Maybe they're having an argument with a friend. Maybe their brother got a toy that they want and he won't share. And they can also think about the things that they enjoy doing, the things that they love, like playing outside, going to the beach, spending time with family, etc. Okay, so there are definitely ways that you can adapt this activity to younger learners and obviously to adults as well. Okay, 2 more questions for you. Are you good at managing your time? And are you good at prioritizing tasks? Yes, a yes mostly I saw pop up just there. I think I would be yes mostly as well. Thankfully, there's lots of yeses coming in. I'm seeing the odd no pop up in the chat. Good at both, fantastic most of the time. Excellent. So this is an activity called the Big Frog, okay, which is why I've got a fun little picture of a frog here. And this idea, it's based on a quote which has been attributed to Mark Twain. I'm just going to read the quote to you. If your job is to eat a frog, it's best to do it first thing in the morning. If your job is to eat 2 frogs, it's best to eat the biggest one first. Okay. So we saw a little bit before in the previous activity about the things that stress our students out and how they can make those stresses more visually bigger or smaller. Now we're going to get them to think about the things that they have to do and get them prioritizing tasks. So again, lots of scrap paper for this activity is great so that they can write everything on an individual piece of paper. So individually, get the students to write the things they have to do on slips of paper. Remember as well, model this with your students first. Then ask them which of those tasks is the most boring, the most difficult, the one that will take the longest. Okay? And the idea from this is that they can identify what their big frog is. So which is the task that they really don't want to do? I mean, imagine eating a frog and then imagine eating 2 frogs. Ugh. So which of these tasks is the one that they've got no motivation for? Maybe because they know it's going to be boring, maybe because they know it's going to be difficult, maybe because they know that it will take up a lot of their time and they don't actually have the energy to get started. Okay, and then help them to prioritize their tasks. Now, I've seen a couple of really interesting comments here. People saying, move from easy to difficult. Okay, so this is very true. Discuss the benefits with the students of completing an easy task first. So this is where I disagree slightly with the quote. If you have to eat 2 frogs, eat the biggest one first. If you have lots of tasks that you have to do, sometimes completing the most difficult first isn't the right way to go about it because you'll feel overwhelmed with starting. And so actually saying to the students, okay, have a look. So you've identified that this is your big frog. This is your most difficult, most boring, longest task. Choose 1 or 2 of your smaller tasks. How would you feel if you completed those ones first? Okay, and actually reminding students that they can complete easier tasks first gives them a real sense of achievement, and it can be much more motivating to move on to the more difficult task if you've already ticked off a couple of things. Exactly, it keeps their enthusiasm going. And I saw a lovely idea there as well of breaking a bigger task into smaller steps as well. Absolutely. Okay, and I think that this activity is nice again for teens who sometimes they do feel overwhelmed. Often they're at school, they're perhaps in sports teams or doing other extracurricular activities, plus homework, plus they want to spend time with their friends. Maybe as well they have family commitments. And so actually talking to them about the things they need to do can help them really visualize it as well. Okay, let's move on. So we've looked at a few people skills already. Now, somebody suggested earlier active listening. So how do you encourage your learners to listen to each other in the classroom? Let's get some ideas in the chat. It's great as well if you'll share your ideas and then, you're watching me, but all these teachers here are sharing fantastic ideas as well. Storytelling, taking turns, think, pair, share, circle time, excellent. Lots of fantastic ideas. And I caught a part of Shirley's session before now, and she had some lovely ideas as well about getting students to listen to each other. Fantastic. So sharing their knowledge, excellent. Reflecting with each other, group discussions, lots of fantastic activities here. Now, we won't have a time to actually practice this activity, but here is the way it works. Again, model the activity with a student first. So I would do this activity with one of my students. So I would be one half of the pair and my student would be the other half. And I would get the student to tell me an anecdote, and all I do is listen. Okay, I'm not going to make any comments. I'm not going to do any corrections. I'm not going to ask any questions. I'm not even going to go, ooh, really? Okay, I can nod. I can use my facial expressions to show that I'm listening, but I'm not going to say anything. Then, when my student has finished their anecdote, I'm going to retell their anecdote, okay, using you. So imagine the student said, well, last weekend I went with my family to the beach and it was really nice and we saw lots of our friends, etc., etc. So retelling the anecdote, I would say, oh, so last weekend you went to the beach and you were with your family, weren't you? And you said that you saw lots of people as well. So the idea being here that they're actively listening. So when the first person is sharing their story, they're trying to listen and remember the details. Okay. And this is why it's important for them to just listen. No comments, no questions, just let one person speak and then retell the anecdote. And this can be, obviously, I've given an example there with, maybe a B1 sort of level, but even with a lower level, this can work. So, for example, it could be tell your partner about your favorite things, and you could give them a list of prompts on the board like food, type of music, actor, animal, and one person just makes sentences. My favorite food is pizza. My favorite actor is John Krasinski. My favorite animal is a rabbit. And then the partner just repeats those sentences. So this is a really nice activity for students at any level as well. Fantastic. Okay, so this activity we are going to do, and I'm going to close the chat for a minute because I don't want to see anybody's answers. In a minute, I'm going to tell you about my allotment, so the place where I grow vegetables. Before I start speaking, I want you to think and write down 5 words you think I'm definitely going to say, and 5 words you think maybe I'll say. Okay, so I'll repeat those instructions again. I'm going to talk about my allotment. I'd like you to think and write down 5 words you think I'm definitely going to say, and 5 words you think maybe I'll say. Give you 20 seconds to think whilst I have a sip of water. A quick second. Okay. So obviously, if I was doing this in the classroom, I would give the students a lot more time to write down their ideas. I would be monitoring and going round and helping them and, perhaps giving them the vocabulary if they say, how do I say this in English? So we're doing a much more condensed version so we can get through everything. Now, as I'm talking about my allotment, imagining that you've got these 10 words written on paper, you would listen and tick each word that you hear me say. Okay? If I repeat a word, perfect. You only need to tick it once. And for example, if you've written a verb like plant, to plant, if I say planted, planting, plants, all of those count. Okay, so you can give it a tick as well. One thing I forgot to mention. Tell your students we're thinking here about content words. Okay, so nouns, adjectives, verbs, adverbs, etc. We don't want them writing a list of 10 very easy words like I and the. Okay, so we're thinking nouns, verbs, content words. Right, everybody ready to tick? So, I live in a flat, and so I don't have a garden, but my husband and I rent an allotment, and it's in the next town over. And so we tend to go to the allotment maybe once a week, twice if we have enough time, and once a fortnight if we're feeling a bit lazy. And I love having an allotment. I love being able to grow my own vegetables. And also it's really nice for thinking about recipes because obviously I have to cook everything that I grow. And so if we suddenly have a lot of tomatoes or a lot of courgettes, I have to think, right, what are we going to make with these? The allotment is quite big, I would say, for the two of us. And at the moment, we've got tomatoes, we've got some pumpkins, aubergines, courgettes, cucumbers. I think there's probably some herbs there as well, but no fruit. Okay, we don't have any trees in the allotment, only plants. Okay, so then there are two ways you can do this now. So the simple way is that then you say, fantastic, now look at your ticks, and if you have ticks in the definitely column, you get 2 points for each tick. And you get 1 point for every tick in the maybe column. Okay, so you've got a maximum of 15 points there. So then you get the students to count up and say, okay, who had more than 5, who had more than 8, etc. You can also add in an extra stage in the activity. So before the students count their points, you can give them the opportunity to ask questions so that they can try and elicit one of the words on their list that the speaker didn't use. Okay, but this is quite good because the students really have to think about the type of question they'll ask. Because, for example, imagine you had on your list potatoes. If you said to me, do you have potatoes in your allotment? I would say, no, not at the moment. And I don't use the word potatoes at all. Okay, so maybe the students have to think carefully about the questions that they ask. What vegetables do you grow in the winter, for example? Okay, excellent. So let me go back to my slides. So once you've modeled the activity, then you can get the students doing it themselves. This activity, I like to do it in groups rather than pairs because there's that little bit of competition between them when obviously they're predicting the vocabulary that's going to come up. And then after they've listened, they can share how many words they got correct. So divide the class into small groups. Choose one learner to think about a topic in each group. Okay, you can assign a topic to them. For example, if you're doing a lesson on hobbies, tell your group about your hobbies. If you're doing a lesson on food, tell your group about a restaurant you went to, for example. Then give the other students time to predict 5 words they think the student will definitely use and 5 words they think maybe they'll use. Okay? And the great thing about this is that while these students are all sitting and predicting and writing their lists, it gives the speaker time to start planning what they're going to say. Okay, because sometimes we put students on the spot and we say, tell me about this. So this activity gives them a little bit of time to reflect, maybe think about how they'll structure their talk, etc. Then, while the speaker speaks, the others listen. Okay, again, no interruptions whilst the person is speaking. They just listen and tick. And then, like I say, you can either add up the points straight away or have that extra stage where they have to think what questions they can ask. Okay, so another activity for you now. I'm going to pop 4 statements and for each one decide, is it a fact or an opinion? Okay, so you're going to see 1, 2, 3, 4. So you can put number 1 F, number 1 O, etc. Here are those statements. I'll read them out, so if anybody can't see them very clearly. Number 1, Bangkok is the capital of Thailand. Number 2, the people in the south of Thailand are friendlier than the people in the north. Number 3, Rayong province has the nicest beaches in Thailand. Number 4, Thailand is the world's largest exporter of durian fruit. I confused myself for a second there because I saw lots of number 1's F's and I was thinking, oh no, false. So yeah, no, F is for fact and O is for opinion, but it might actually make it easier if you use something else instead of fact or opinion, true or opinion, for example, so that you don't get confused like I did. Great, I can see lots of answers coming in, and the answer is foof. Fantastic, F-O-O-F. So this is a really nice activity. And as well, we were talking a little bit before in other sessions about digital literacy and global citizenship, and how it's really important nowadays that our students can identify whether everything they're seeing online is true or not. So this is a simple activity that you can do to get them thinking about that. So, first of all, give the learners 4 statements and put them in groups to discuss whether each one is a fact or an opinion. Okay, so again, if I was doing this in the class, the learners would have a little bit of time to chat together. I wouldn't just immediately ask for answers. Then ask them to work individually to write 4 statements on another topic. So here, the students can personalize the topic as well. Now, I get a lot of, I live in Spain, and there are two, well, there's lots of big football teams. Football is a very popular sport, and there tend to be a lot of Real Madrid is the best team in the world, Barcelona is the best team in the world, and that's obviously an opinion, okay? But you can get your students to think about a topic that they're very keen on, for example, football, if you live in Spain, and get them to think, well, what is actually a fact? And what is actually an opinion? Just because your favorite team is Real Madrid or Barcelona, that doesn't necessarily equate to it being the best team in the world, okay? What does being the best even mean as well? Okay, so, oh, sorry, I went too far then. So yeah, then getting them to write their own sentences, and then they can share their sentences, again, working in small groups. And it's a nice way as well for them to learn a little bit about each other's interests as well. I like to give them 4 facts or opinions just because that seems like a nice round number. It could be that all 4 of them are facts. It could be that all 4 of them are opinions. You can decide as well. Okay, so moving on to the next one. Right. Next slide. There are going to be, well, I'm going to do these ones one by one. So there are going to be 4 would you rather questions. And I'd like you to write your answers in the chat. So here comes the first one. Would you rather live without fruit or live without vegetables? So you can choose fruit. Fruit seems to be popular. Vegetables, none. You have to choose one, I'm afraid. Fantastic. I kind of wish I'd done a poll and we could have kind of see what the percentages is. Excellent. Okay. Lots of popularity for each one. Personally, I think I would live without fruit. I love vegetables, hence the allotment. Would you rather be able to talk to animals or be able to read people's minds? So here you can put animals or minds. Read minds. Oh, animals. Oh, fantastic. I like to talk to animals. I talk to animals anyway, but they don't answer. So maybe if I could actually have a little conversation with them, it would be quite nice. Fantastic. Okay, number 3 coming ready. Would you rather live in a treehouse or live in a submarine? I know which I would prefer. Treehouse seems to be popular for this one. A few submarines are popping up. But yeah, I like that idea of being in the trees, and you'd see a lot more as well, unless it was one of those submarines with massive windows, but then it might be really dark at the bottom of the ocean. And one more. Would you rather always feel hot or always feel cold? Now, your answer to this question might depend what time of year it is. If you're somewhere very hot at the moment because it's summertime, maybe you would wish to always be cold. This one is much more divisive than the treehouse or the submarine. Fantastic. Excellent. So these are would you rather questions. And again, obviously, if I was doing this in the class, I would give the learners one question and get them to discuss with their partners their reason for which they would choose. Okay? And with these activities, it's good to think of extremes. Okay, so you don't want to say kind of, would you rather have brown hair or black hair? Would you rather have really long hair or no hair at all? Okay. Would you rather have pizza or pasta? Would you rather only eat pizza for the rest of your life or only eat pasta? Okay. So these extremes, they get students thinking a little bit more. So here we're looking at critical thinking. We don't want to ask them easy questions. Make sure as well that there's no correct answer. Okay, so the idea here is that they share their opinions, and it's not that one answer is right and the other answer is wrong. It's very much personal opinion. Give them time to discuss in pairs or small groups after each question, and then invite a few students to share their ideas, and then tell them to write 3 of their own questions. Okay, so the one before, would you rather talk to animals or read people's minds? That was one of my students' questions from when I did this activity with them. So as well, students can be really creative and think of their own questions. Now, we're going to skip the next question, the next activity. It's very similar. These are called thunk questions. And again, these are more open-ended than the would you rather questions, but no right answer, get students thinking. So which is the best root vegetable? Is there more happiness or sadness in the world? How many days does it take to know someone? And what color is Friday? One quick thing to mention with this last question, if you ask that in Spain, generally there's no correct answer. But I know that in some cultures and in some belief systems, days are assigned colors. Okay, so find out, which of these activities, which of these questions would work in your class. There's a lot of Black Friday coming through as well. Fantastic. So thunk questions. Again, make sure there's no correct answer and give learners time to discuss each question. Always, we're doing lots of things with communication for these activities. Now, we're getting towards the end. So, exit tickets. Choose one of the prompts from the next page and write your answer in the chat. These are the activities that we've looked at on the right-hand side. And you can answer number 1, what was your favorite? Number 2, what do you think your learners would enjoy most? Number 3, is there any activity you wouldn't use? That's absolutely fine as well. Remembering we're reflecting on what works for us. And number 4, which activity made you think the most? Fantastic. Excellent. Lovely to see that your ideas are coming through. And it's great that everyone has different opinions as well. There's no correct answer. That's another thing that I love, doing activities where there's no correct answer. Fantastic. So just to round up, I think that exit tickets are really useful for our students as well. Okay, so these are some exit tickets that I might use with my students if I was in class. If there was more time, I'd like to know, da, da, da. I could ask them, did you prefer working alone, in pairs, or in groups? Today I felt stressed because I have a huge exam next week. What did you learn today that will help you in the future? Which activity did you enjoy most and why? Or write a 10-word summary of today's lesson. Okay, so if I'm doing these exit tickets with my students, just choose one question or one statement for the lesson. Okay, you don't want to overwhelm the students asking them too many things at the end of the lesson. Give them thinking time. So unfortunately, I haven't given you much thinking time. We're running out of time a little bit, but I wanted to get through everything. And you can use questions or statements that focus on different aspects. So, for example, that idea of the interactions, who do you want to work with? Who did you enjoy working with? Or did you prefer working alone or working in pairs? Or which activity did you enjoy most? Or what will help you most in the future? They focus on different things. And you can use your learners' answers to help you in your preparation of the next one. Okay, so reflection is really important for our students, but it's also really important for us. Like, how can I make the learning experience better for my students? Okay, so some key takeaways, and then there'll be some time for some questions. People skills, they're a part of the lesson. They can easily be integrated into communicative activities. And that's why the language classroom is the perfect place to develop them. There's lots of crossover, communication, collaboration, empathy, finding out more about other people. And they really are essential for the future. Even if AI takes over, there will still be people, hopefully, and people will still need to collaborate and work together. Okay, fantastic. So, uh, there's a few useful links for you here. The slides won't be available, but obviously you can re-watch the recording, and then you'll get a handout which has some other useful slides on it as well. And time for some questions, Udani.
Yes, that was such a lovely session, Teresa. I think from the start, when you talked about the stress bucket, I felt like we all need to have one in the class, but one at home as well, you know.
Definitely.
Yeah. And really nice flow. Thank you so much for that wonderful, you know, session. And let's take a few questions. Yeah. Shall I ask you the first one?
Perfect. Yep. Thank
All
you
right.
in the chat.
Okay, I'll start with the first activity. I think that you shared the confession activity. Someone from the Zoom chat has asked, a teacher from there has asked, what age group would it best suit for? And if we were to adapt it, how would we do it for different age groups, basically?
Well, so I think this one, it does work well from teens onwards. So maybe when they're in secondary, just because then they're a little bit more self-aware of the things that they need to do and how not doing things can affect people. I think it could work with younger learners, but it would need a lot more support, probably a lot more one-to-one conversation as well. So I would say start that one with the teens.
Sorry. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that's wonderful. And all right, we have a question with AI, a little bit of a thunk question, if I may say. Do you think the use of AI has lessened the importance of collaboration and emotional attachment in the classroom? And
Ooh,
if so, how can we overcome it?
yeah. I mean, I think so. I think AI can be a really useful tool, as long as our students know how to use it, and as long as it doesn't replace any of the skills that they need, and any of those interactions as well.
Sure. Yeah.
Um, So, yeah, I think that it has the potential to lessen some
Mm-hmm.
of those skills. And that's why we as teachers need to ensure that we are still modeling and practicing
Mm,
those skills in
mm,
the
mm,
classroom so that
mm.
they don't get left behind. Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. Thank you for that. I aimed a very, big question at you. So, the next one I would say, I think even I felt this when you were explaining it. A lot of us teachers also sometimes we also need to understand what these people's skills are, and we are good at some skills and we are not that good at some others. So for us to teach such skills in a classroom, what could be your tips for those, like empathy or active listening? Especially we love
Mhm.
to talk.
Yes, yes. Well, I mean, if anybody asked me, I would say that I am incredibly unemotionally intelligent. I think I can kind of fake it till I make it. And I think as well, that's part of our role as teachers is to take on a different role sometimes in the classrooms and get out of our own comfort zone as well in terms of, sharing things about ourselves so that our students become more comfortable sharing things as well. Um, I think as well, all of these activities, you could practice them with other people first, practice them with other teachers, practice them with family, and that can help you feel a little bit more confident before you go into the classroom and have to try it out with the students as well.
Yeah, that's so true. And like you said, you also demonstrated, right? And that really helped us understand what the activity was. So that was really important. All right, let me check on another question. And in the meantime, if you see any questions, please feel free. Um, Let me see. Right. Okay. There's one
Seeing what
about,
Well,
sorry,
there's one here, we see a lot of resources for students to develop their soft skills and communication,
kind of
but are there
similar
any,
to what I, yeah.
yeah, for teachers or educators who are neurodivergent for building better communication and social skills? I mean, I will admit my awareness of neurodivergence is very limited. I think there are lots of fantastic educators who can give you much more support and resources around that. So, for example, Anne Margaret Smith, she's an educator and she works a lot with students who are neurodivergent. So perhaps some of those resources could help. Bulo van der Poel, he does a lot around dyslexia. He's dyslexic himself. And Martin Bloomfield as well, he's done a lot around dyslexia. There's a guy called Mark Jones who's based in Japan. He does stuff around being a teacher with ADHD. So I would say, like, if you are looking for those sorts of resources, joining a professional network like LinkedIn or on Facebook as well. Lottie Galpin has a fantastic group called Reflecting Reality. And ask these sorts of questions there. There are I mean, we're very giving in the ELT profession, but I think there are always people out there who are willing to help you out and share resources and point you in the right direction. Great question,
Cool.
Ritika.
And Teresa, if you could, can you show the exit ticket again, for our teachers? One of them are asking
Say I can. Can I go
us
backwards?
for, yep, okay,
Oh, no, hang on. Give me 1 second.
no problem.
Do.
Yep.
Um, okay, so these were the questions that I asked you, and then here are the questions that I might ask my students.
Right.
In fact, I can take a picture of it and share it in the chat, I think. Soup, soup, soup.
All right, thank you for that. And some of the teachers are asking, obviously in schools, local schools, there's a lot of writing happening, essays happening as well. And your activities do lend themselves into a lot of writing as well. Can you give us one example of one of those activities and how a teacher could expand that?
Yep, so For example, with the definitely maybe, so when students have predicted their 10 words, maybe they could then use all of the 10 words, whether the person said them or not, to create a short text about the topic. So that would be as well quite a nice way to get them to use a greater variety of language. So for example, imagine you have students and they love football, but the person in the class decided to talk about their love of ballet. The vocabulary that they're going to predict is going to be very different. And then if they have to kind of write a short story or a little paragraph using that vocabulary, it gets them thinking a little bit more as well.
Yeah,
Great question.
absolutely. Absolutely. And okay, that lends itself a little bit to the next question. So the would you rather activity you did, they do need to talk about extremes, and it could spark a healthy debate. So do you think there should be anything to prepare our students who might have not done these type of activities before, or a teacher how they could better prepare?
Yep. I mean, a lot of these activities as well lend themselves to teaching some sort of functional language. So that would you rather activity, as I said before, these are activities that you can integrate into your lesson. So that could come at the end of a lesson where you've taught students different phrases for giving their opinion or for agreeing and disagreeing. So yeah, definitely look for. So this is why it's great if you practice these activities with another teacher or with a friend. You can kind of record yourself and go, okay,
Mm.
what vocabulary, what structures, what language did I use then? And then you can pre-teach that so that students are better prepared for the activities, definitely.
I think that was your exit ticket question. Thank you so much. Is there any other questions you see that
I
anything
mean,
else?
I just want to say huge thanks to everyone because the chat has just been really,
Yeah.
really sorry because I didn't get a chance to see any questions. So huge thanks to everyone for participating and everyone who was over on Facebook as well.
Yeah. And thank you so much, Teresa, for answering all the questions and the amazing session you had. I actually de-stressed myself, by watching your session.
Yeah, I'm
All
going to
right. So,
watch TV soon as well.
all right. So before we say our goodbyes, I would like to share the feedback form. And this, you will find the feedback link in the chat. You can also scan the QR code and fill out the feedback form, and then you can download the certificate. Once you fill out the feedback form, in the thank you slide, you will see all the links to certificates from day 1 and day 2 as well. Please remember, if you're downloading it on your phone, you might not be able to edit it. So make sure you download it on a laptop. And the PDF handout of the webinar will be available by 24th of July on our global webpage. And tomorrow is day 3, and we have a great lineup under the theme of using digital technologies. We saw already you had put some questions related to AI. So if you are interested in digital technologies, AI, you need to join the sessions tomorrow. And use the same Zoom link in the confirmation email you received at the time of registration to attend any webinar in the conference. And thank you all. Have a wonderful evening and hope to see you tomorrow.